Welcome to this week's episode of Being Bookish. I'm your host Ray, self-confessed bookworm, introvert, hermit, long-term depression sufferer and ex-coffee addict. As you may be able to tell, this is different to my usual episodes. So let's get straight down to the content you're here for. I am heading out of my comfort zone this week with crime novels and talking with author Mary Hannah about her latest book, Black Fell. And I am joined today by the author Mary Hannah. Many of you will know that she is a crime author, and you will probably also know that crime is not something I traditionally will read. In fact, I think the last crime novel I read was probably by Agatha Christie. Because that's what I grew up on.
I'm in good company then.
That's what I grew up on, and I absolutely loved it. I think I watch more procedurals than I read, in all honesty. I will watch all of the crime, the light-hearted crime. I watched the entirety of Sister Boniface in one day.
Right.
So I like the sort of, not the so much gentle, but the complicated crime to solve. And you've got a new book coming out on the 22nd of June, I believe.
I do.
The latest,
Fell.
Yeah, the latest in your Oliver and Stone series. I actually loved the chemistry between those two characters. When I read it, it was the first one I'd read, and I really enjoyed their chemistry. I thought they worked really well together. So for those people out there who haven't heard of the book or are thinking about their next read, what is Black Fell about?
Well, I think it's quite a complex thriller. It's book 4 of the Stone and Oliver series. And so, but it can be read as a standalone. It's opened at Kielder Water, where some Icelandic students are camping illegally. And two of them, that's Christian and Eva, find a barrel that's floating in the water at dawn when they go for a swim. It's cold in Kielder Water. I wouldn't imagine anybody would want to go for a swim there, but they are Icelandic students, so, you know, we've got to give them that. And they smash it open and they find skeletal remains inside. That's the opening of the book. But the book is set in 2 different places. Kielder, obviously, which I've just mentioned, but also Iceland, which is where the students are from. And the reason for that is I've kind of been choreographing Stone and Oliver having to be separated in this book and the next one, which I'm writing now, for reasons that I won't go into because it would really spoil it if somebody goes to the beginning, which was The Lost. I really enjoyed writing this book, and I really enjoy writing these 2 characters. They're both from the north, but David Stone has spent 15 years in the Metropolitan Police and has come home with a tale to tell that he's not actually telling anyone about. So if I could just go back to the beginning,
of course.
The reason I love writing this series is because readers met them as they met each other, which was lovely. Whereas in other series that I write, because I write across 3 series, we jump straight in with a couple of detectives who are already established and what have you. But these 2 are meeting each other in The Lost, which is book 1, and they have grown together over the last 4 books, and will continue hopefully to do that. I'm most known for my Kate Daniels series, which is 9 books in, or will be when that next one comes out in January. But I changed publisher, and because I'm changing publisher from Pam Macmillan to Orion, they decided that yes, of course they would publish Kate Daniels, but they wanted me to write something new, which was quite a challenge because obviously I was already writing 2 series, but but I really enjoy it. I think that keeping yourself fresh is really important as an author, um, and this has made me, I now alternate the Kate Daniels and the Stone and Oliver books. Ryan
Are
and
those
O'Neill have been put to one side for a little while, but yes, I mean the difference in this book from the first three is that I was able to bring some historical elements into it. And also, obviously, because we go to Iceland, there is a sort of Scandinavian feel about it as well. So if anybody out there is listening and wants to, have a read, that would be wonderful. But it's quite a complicated story. And these students are let go. I don't want to, give away the plot too much, but the students
good?
are let go, and then another body is found, which is not skeletal remains, it's a fresh body. So I hope it didn't scare you, Ray, while you were reading this.
I actually found the plot fascinating because obviously I didn't know anything of the background of the characters. So I was seeing them more as an established partnership.
Yes,
But I
yes,
loved the way that obviously Frankie is a third generation police officer, and you
yeah,
brought her father and her grandfather into it, and
yeah,
also established that David has a friendship with them as well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you had to say one thing that was important to Frankie, it is her family. Um, she absolutely adores her family. And I should say that both of these detectives have like a dark shadow hanging over them. I won't say any more than that, but we are moving. In the first couple of books, we found out what David's was, but now we're going to find out in the next book what Frankie's is. Um, but that's kind of been hinted at
Yes.
through the first books. But yes, family really really important. Frankie is very very close to her father, particularly, who is now retired from the police, same Northumbria Police, same organisation, and David has no family left. Um, I don't think it's too much to tell you that in the first book, his brother dies. His only brother dies. His family are already dead, and um, and they're in lays a tale because the brother has a son, and he's not kind of ready. He's not kind of ready to be a dad. He's never thought about being a dad, so that's kind of complicates his life slightly. Um, but I plot everything out from the start. And obviously, as you're right, and people say, well, does that stop the creativity? To me, it doesn't. All I've got is the bare bones of the story. And as I'm writing, I tend to sort of think of things or places where I can go or what have you. Um, and ideas occur to you and you go, oh God, I can take this here. But as long as I've got a road to come back to, I find, I can do that. If I was to set off from page one and not have a clue where I was going, I know that I'm the kind of person who would completely go off piece and it would be rubbish. So I'm kind of one of those writers that likes to plan. Some writers will just do a couple of pages. That's all really that I do. A couple of
Yeah.
pages, 2 or 3 pages. I know some. Jeffrey Deaver does a couple of 100 pages
But that's a novel.
before he starts to write the book. I've interviewed him at Harrogate Crime Writing Festival, and I was completely fascinated by that. That he would put so much detail into it and then go in and start writing it. But every writer's different.
Yeah, I found that. I mean, I write for a living. I'm a content writer I work for a property company, and
All right.
I tend to sit down and plan out sections, give headers and a rough outline of what I'm going to write for the articles that I need to put together, because
Yeah.
otherwise, like you, I will go completely off piste. And all of a sudden I'll find that I am somewhere I don't need to be. which
That's exactly it.
distracts.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I've done that from the start because I started off actually at my writing started as a screenwriter. I wanted to be a screenwriter, and it's as hard to get into screenwriting as it is to get into book writing and
yeah,
into publishing. And so I did a couple of schemes with various organisations. One of them was the BBC, and they gave me a mentor who basically gave me the very good advice to sit down and write a very long biography of each of your main characters, not the small ones, but the main ones.
yeah,
And so I did that, and that's never left me. And also to have that couple of pages or even one page, because the TV don't want you to have 3 pages, they like one page. So you need to be very, I need to be very precise about what I put in and what I leave out. And really, TV is a completely different thing because what they're thinking of is that they're talking very broad brushstrokes. Give us the world and we'll tell you whether we like it. Whereas when you do a synopsis for a publisher, it's completely different. What they want is the plot, the plot line, if you like,
yeah.
so that they know that you've got a book in you. Um, and then at the end of every book, I always think I'll never be able to do this again. And here I am. And, the next one would be book 15, which is marvelous.
But obviously, with the outlines for the series, with Kate Daniels and with Oliver and with Stone and Oliver, you've got the elements of the plots all the way through. So you've got the carry-on plot that meanders through, and there are hints that peek through. Because I noticed that there were certain mentions, as you were saying, that Frankie is going to have this, her secret is going to come out. You could see there were little bits that were sort of peeking out there that she didn't want revealed, and there were brief mentions of it in the
there
pages
are there
with
are
the
brief mentions
office.
of it, really, from book 2, and we know that her sister has been murdered. I can give that. I'm happy to give that away, but it's coming to a head. Is all I'm saying. So yes, we know what the story is, but in actual fact, whilst Frankie is a very gregarious, very funny, one liners her thing. She's a great character to write. But then there's this very, very private side of her, which she shares with her father and not a lot of other people. So yeah, so that kind of is the world that Frankie's in, and she's taken David to her heart, really. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware when I set off writing the first 3 books what the arc was going to be, where it would start and finish, any more than I was with Kate Daniels, and I'm on book 9 now, and like they Kate has a relationship that is very on and off, and and has
That's with
followed it.
Joe, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm still writing her. She is optioned for, well, she's in development now for television. And that has been a very long time coming. Not for want of trying. COVID came along for a start off. That didn't help at all because, whilst we in the book world, we writers, if those of us that could, continue to write, the whole of the sort of film and TV industry just kind of collapsed
Yeah.
because they couldn't film, because they needed to be with people and close to people, and that didn't work. So yeah, it's been a strange old time, isn't it?
Just a bit. You ended up with programs like Staged during the pandemic.
Mm.
Not saying that's a bad thing, but
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of programming that they were restricted to because you couldn't
Yeah.
you couldn't go next door and borrow a pint of milk.
Yeah.
So I think that's it though. I mean, this book I found fascinating. I loved the dual perspective, the two countries. I very, very briefly went to Iceland. It is a stunning country. I was there literally for 12 hours. I spent more money there than I did on my 4-week holiday in Canada.
It's a very expensive country. It
Yes,
is.
very expensive, but it's an experience that I think if you get the chance to do it, you do it. So
Exactly. And have you ever been to Northumberland, Kay? Because
no, I have. It sounds bad. I haven't actually been.
there are similarities in that lots of Northumberland is, very isolated. It's yeah, we've got trees and it's green and everything, but it is very isolated. You can drive for a long time without coming across another car or, just seeing the odd dotted little cottage here and there. So in one way, and I have been to Iceland a few times because I've appeared at Iceland Noir and been taken into the interior rather than, just in
Yeah,
Reykjavik where people tend to go. So it was a perfect place to go. Um, to kind of like balance these two stories as they're going on.
because they were kind of reverses of the same coin. In
Yes, and for those of your listeners who don't know, Fields of Water was it's a flooded valley, and beneath the water there is a whole village, and that is becomes part of the story as well, which causes a major headache for the detectives because there's a media scrum and they all want to make the most of this. Who's floated up from this lost world and stuff like that. It's not spooky. It's about as close as spooky as I've ever got, but it isn't spooky at all. It's fact. Um, so it's been around now for 40 years nearly, the reservoir, and all sorts of things that happened in the book where I go back even further than that to the Second World War. And, so those readers who really like to go back to find um, stuff out that you might not know. I mean, I didn't know about it when I started writing that I was actually going to go that far back in history. Um, but it's putting the puzzle together that I find really fascinating. And exploring my own area because it's, as I say, it's vast. So yeah, and I like you. I love Iceland, expensive or not.
it's the same with a lot of places. Switzerland's another beautiful country. It's not exactly the
Yeah,
most cost friendly location either.
no,
But I think that one of the things I loved was the way that you introduced the past and the present together and melded them into a story that obviously started with the discovery of this body in the barrel, but it started a little bit earlier than that, which introduced you to the poor unfortunate soul who they do discover that isn't skin, that isn't just bone. And I
mhm.
loved the way, because I didn't know where that was going to go. You
Well,
had this,
that's kind of my signature in a way that I've always because when you write screenplays, you've got 10 pages to prove that people want to read on. And that's it, the 10 page rule. And I've taken that into books, to be honest. Um, so I feel that most of my books drop you absolutely right into the action. So here we've got a guy who's sitting at night surrounded by millions of trees and beautiful water, and he's not in a good way. Shall we say that?
yeah, we
Um,
can say that.
we don't want to spoil it for anyone, but yeah, that's part of my process is to get the readers engaged with the book straight away. And I hope that was your experience.
It was one I think I started it on Saturday and finished it on Monday. So it
Great.
was it and obviously I had to work all day Monday because
Yeah.
can't get out of that. And I found myself thinking about it while I was at work, trying to figure out who'd done it, what was the motive behind it, and who was, I mean, primarily it was for me, who was the person in the barrel. because of
Mm.
course we knew we were going back because they'd said it was a much older set of
Yeah.
remains. So it was like, why were they in a barrel? What would
Hmm.
have caused them to be in the barrel?
Hmm.
And that was something that I kept on thinking about.
Hmm.
And when obviously I'm not going to give away the ending because that would be really, really mean. But when I read the ending, it was like, that was that was clever. And there were so many things that hinted at it, but until the revelation at the end, it wasn't something that immediately went, oh, that's what happened.
Good. Job done.
Which I think is a good accompaniment. It's something you don't want to be sitting there going, I know exactly who did that, as I've done so many times when I've watched something that I've watched before. But I actually found myself thinking, oh, and I liked the characters. And I think that's the most important thing. If you can not necessarily get into the head of the characters, but enjoy who they are. I liked
Mhm.
their dynamic. I liked Frankie's relationship with her family. I liked the the way that she built an association with the police in Iceland.
Mhm. Yeah. And also, I think that she's very kind. She cares,
Yeah.
and kind of that goes throughout all of the books. She cares about victims for obvious reasons. So yeah, and she's very good with a certain character, a certain elderly character towards the end, I think,
Yes.
which was nice. But you know, people say that my crime writing is crime writing with heart, and I always hope that that is the case because I mean, I want readers to be emotionally invested in these people. To me, they're real. Kind of, I'm a bit weird.
Well, you
No, but they
created
feel
them.
real. Yes, exactly. But now, and so they're with me all the time. Um, and I really do enjoy opening up their personalities, and they have changed since I started writing. Um, they've molded into a real solid um, couple, duo.
Yeah.
And it was Orion's idea to write a duo rather than um, you know, just have one character. Although Kate has Hank, who is her sidekick,
Yeah.
who is amazing.
Yeah. He is very, very loyal.
Very, very. And I think you'll find that that loyalty, it is loyalty that kind of runs through the books and through the people, I suppose. I'm writing about people that I would love to spend time with, you know, in whatever way. I could sit down to have dinner with my characters and be quite happy. They don't always do as they're told. They don't always come out smelling of roses. They do things wrong, and I keep it as realistic as I can. Um, the authenticity of the police world is important to me.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, your listeners will not know possibly that I'm ex-probation officer. My partner is an ex-DI on a murder squad. So between us, we have an awful lot of experience. In my case, in and out of prisons and courts and Crown courts and what have you. So I've got a wealth of experience with social services, police, you know,
You see the
ambulance.
people at their lowest ebb, really.
Yes, indeed.
So where did you get the idea for these characters from?
Well, because obviously I'm very involved with, or was very involved with the police. My partner is retired now, but um, lots of our friends are police. Uh, I know people who are second or third generation cops, so Frankie was quite easy. You're not going to believe this, but when I first started writing the Kate Daniels series, there was a guy who's expat from here who lives in uh, Australia now, and he started write to me and say, "God, your books take me right home." you know, his name is David, would you believe, but not David Stone. So and his emails have gone back and forth, back and forth. It's a funny story, this. So he keeps in touch with me all the time, and he's hilarious. His emails are hilarious. And when I was thinking about David, uh, thinking about Stone, first of all, I wanted him to have a surname that was nothing like his personality. He's not hard like a stone.
No.
He's actually completely the opposite. But I thought I'd call him David. And I actually emailed David in Australia and said, um, do you mind if I lift some of the humour out of our emails together? Because we write back and forth, back and forth. And he said, because I'm creating a character and it would be good. And I thought I would give David this humour. Um, and that was the plan. So he said, "Oh God, I'd be delighted. This is fantastic." And I remember I was after I'd written a couple of these books, I was in Waterstones one night, um, and it was a launch or a book signing and an event, and I started to tell the story, and right at the back, a guy put his hand up and said, "Oh, you're embarrassing us now." Like this, and it was him sitting in the audience. I was like, "Is it you?" And he went, "It's me." And I honestly, it was an amazing experience as a writer to have something like that. But the funny thing is that all of the humor that I thought I was going to give to David, I actually gave to Frankie. She's the funny one. She's the one with, how can I say this? She's the one with the cutting lines and she takes the mick relentlessly. And so that's where the characters came from. Basically, my own life experience, but also this guy that I've emailed over the years. And at the end of that, I said to him, "Will you wait and we'll have a drink? We'll go for a drink. I've got to go. My sister's expecting me, da da da. But I'm coming to your event on Thursday," which was the following Thursday. And I went, "Oh, right, great. We'll have a drink after that." Well, he fell down and broke his leg or something.
Oh
He
no.
hurt his leg. And so he didn't get to the event. So he wasn't there. So I haven't seen him other than across a Waterstone shop, which is amazing. He's a great guy and obviously homesick, as David is.
Yeah.
And that's where David's homesickness came from. I mean, there was a reason why he left London that people will discover. But he's also been very homesick. Um, and he has this tiny, weeny little cottage in a place called Pauperhof, which is, like blink and you're through it, which he's inherited from his nan, who he loves to bits. Obviously, she's not alive anymore. So he lives there. Frankie lives in an apartment on the coast overlooking a beautiful marina and in a place called Amble. And so they have a completely different, he's in the countryside, she's at the coast, but it's a contrast, and that's what I wanted.
Yeah, and obviously the fact that they were both inspired by your experience and also people that you know gives them an
Yeah.
extra layer of reality and
Yes,
humanity.
and sometimes writers are hoarders, and we kind of write down little notes and stuff. And sometimes it comes from something you have in your possession. And an old lady once showed me a postcard. I won't tell you where it was from, but it was a postcard. You know what the postcard probably said because she's old. Um, but this postcard was really poignant, and I thought, what am I going to ever do with this? I will use this one day, and I actually did use it in in this book. So there's little bits of stuff that I've thought about over the years, and kind of you like, but you can't just go, "Oh, I want to use this," and I'll chuck it in this book because it doesn't work. It
No.
has to be the right book. It has to be the right circumstance, and that's what I like, to sort of weave those like tales in, um, all wrapped up in a very serious crime story, because that is what I'm about, is the crime stories. I mean, I've worked with, you know, police in my job. I've taught the CID. I used to work with sex offenders at one point, and I've lectured the CID on working with sex offenders and stuff like that. So, but I've never ever based any of my books on a real case, because that would be wrong. Um, but it's the things that happen to me, the voices I've heard. That, you know, I know how they, a lot of the people that I work with, what kind of backgrounds they come from, where they come from, how they speak, how they got into trouble, how they try and get out of trouble, how they end up in prison. So all of that kind of seeps into my writing, I think, without me even thinking about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think it's that.
I hope that it's funny, because say a long time ago, my agent said to me, "Mari, you write brilliant crime books. You don't have to put too much procedure in. The readers will know that you know, because you write it so well. Leave some of it out. You don't have to have too much." And so that kind of, it was a breath of fresh air, really, because it I stopped being trying to do it exactly how it would be done for the police. And in any case, a lot of police work is just hard slog and paperwork. And in a crime novel, you can just get rid of all of that and move on and move on and move forward. And that's what I try to do with the books, is that they push on, um, you know.
Because
So
you could write for hours about a number plate search, for example.
absolutely, you could do, but you don't
I
have
don't
to.
I don't think it would make for a really exciting chapter in a
No,
novel, but you could still do it.
you could do it.
I think that's the thing though, isn't it? It's that element of the reality of it. There's just enough procedure and process in here, and all the politics that go into running the office, liaising with the press and everything else,
Yeah,
which we see quite a lot of in this book, and also in, I've got to remember, in Without a Trace, there's a lot of liaison with the press in both of those novels, for good reason.
yeah,
And it was intriguing because obviously we see the other side of it as the audience. We can see the press hanging around outside waiting for a statement, but we
yeah,
don't know what goes into creating those statements and all the work that goes on
yeah.
behind the scenes, which you gave us insight into, which
And of
makes
course,
it
in that
more
book that
real.
you just mentioned, the Without a Trace, Kate's just gone AWOL. She's
Yes.
completely gone AWOL. She, you know, takes leave without permission. She goes down to London. She blags her way into an investigation. She's got no authority to be there at all. She's going against her boss. Everything she's ever thought that meant something to her as a police officer, she completely blows out of the water, because she's chasing one thing. She's got one goal in mind, and she's not letting go. And of course, she drags Hank along with her, which kind of gets him into trouble as well. But I loved writing that book. Absolutely adored writing that book. And that book came 3 years because of this, because of, you know, Stone and Oliver,
Yeah.
and Ryan asking me to write something new, which I did do 3 books before I said, look, the Kate Daniels fans are going a absolutely ape, because they want to know what happened after the cliffhanger of book 6. And that was, the result was Without a Trace, which was, I have to say, a great book to put out there, great book to talk about, and an award-winning book, which was fabulous, because it won Capital Crime Book of the Year. So that was lovely during COVID as
It's always
well.
nice to get
It was
validation.
amazing. And I honestly thought that our, you know, writers' lives were going to drop off the planet during COVID. because there was no bookshops open, there was nothing open.
I
No
think I
events
gave, I
to
think
go
I,
to.
it sounds bad. I think I probably spent around £3,000 on Amazon in that particular period of time.
I'm sure you did, along with a lot of other people.
Mostly on books.
Yes, I can see behind you.
Yeah, this is only, I've got another 4 shelves in another 2 rooms.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like mine.
I also
But
have
my
boxes.
walls will fall down if I buy any more books.
That's the thing. I'm trying to work out if I can fit another bookcase in here at the moment, because I've only had these bookcases for
Your room will just get
6 months.
smaller and smaller.
This is only this is my office though. I have 2
All
desks
right,
in
okay.
here, one for
Right.
work and one for the podcasting. So
All right,
yeah,
okay.
this is my
Nice.
little podcasting nook
Great.
with all the books that I've purchased in the last, I think, 18 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I read a lot. I bought 11 books this week.
Wow.
Yes, I have a problem. And I don't mind.
Well, do you know what? I mean, I agree. I agree with you. I mean, some people like to go out for a drink and, get absolutely hammered. Some people like to stay home and read.
That's
I
me.
have to say, I'm very happy that some people want to stay home and read. Otherwise, I would be completely pointless.
Well, thank you so much for talking about this book. I know it comes out on the 22nd, and this episode will be going live on the Monday before.
Oh,
So
great.
perfect timing for release. So where can people find you to find out more about your other books?
I have a website, which is marihanna.com. That's MARI Hannah.com. And they can find me on Twitter at Mari Writer. I'm not on Facebook.
I don't blame you. I'm only on Facebook because of work. I manage our
It's been
social
lovely talking
accounts.
to you, Kate. And I'm so sorry about the beginning,
That's absolutely
that we
fine.
couldn't connect at first.
That is fine. I will post the links to everything, including where people can buy Black Fell when it comes out on the
Great.
22nd. And I will let everybody know exactly where they can find you and post all the links. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been wonderful to talk to you about this book, because it really was, it surprised me, because as I said, it is not one of the genres I tend to pick up ever, if I'm honest.
Do you know what? I like converts.
Well,
If you're converted, that would be perfect.
yeah, I'm definitely going to read the other 3 books in the series because I do like these characters.
Oh, good. Great.
Well, that's it for this week, and thank you for listening. And thank you again to my guest, the author Mari Hannah. Her latest book, Black Fell, the 4th in the Stone and Oliver series, is out this coming Thursday, the 22nd of June, with Orion Books. So if you're interested, check the links below and I will post where you can get the book from. If you like what you hear, why not share it with your friends and family? And please post a star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of the other podcatchers where you may listen. You can follow me on Twitter at being_bookish and on Instagram at beingbookishpod. Or you can check out my website, beingbookish.co.uk. Yes, that's a lot of being bookish. Well, I've got a lot to get ready for next week, and a new book is calling me. But do keep an eye out for a special episode later on. So until next time, this is me saying farewell.